Hello, my name is Marie Lindbergh. I was formerly an organizer at Planned Parenthood Advocates of Wisconsin and La Crosse, and Ben asked me to share land acknowledgement with you before you proceed into the important mission of this gathering. Together, we acknowledge the land that we today call Wisconsin is the original homeland of the Dakota Sioux, the Ho-Chunk, the Menominee, the Ojibwe, the Potawatomi, and the Fox and Sauk tribal nations, and many more Native peoples who were driven into Wisconsin after Europeans colonized North America. We acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal from this territory, and we honor and respect the many diverse Indigenous peoples still connected to this land on which we gather.
Hi there, it's Rebecca Schwartz, City Council Member in District 10 for the City of La Crosse. And I'm here to talk a little bit about water. As you've probably heard, here in the City of La Crosse, we face PFAS contamination in our city wells out near our airport. We've also faced increased flooding in our neighborhoods, putting homes and residents at risk. And while it's my understanding that the majority of our city infrastructure is lead-free, we have a lot of old homes in La Crosse. And residents like myself wonder if our private properties, our plumbing is safe from lead contamination. We all deserve safe water. We all deserve clean water. And to be honest, when I think about this and the challenges that we face, I get frustrated. I get a little overwhelmed, especially when I hear about more communities across Wisconsin facing these same problems. But that's also where I find a little bit of hope, because I know when there's more of us looking for solutions, we're more likely to find solutions that work for all of us. So as we search for those solutions, we also deserve science-based, research-based policies that will help us protect our water for future generations. So I just want to thank you for your commitment to learn more about the problems that face us and find solutions that will work for all of us, so that the water that connects each of us is safe for future generations.
Thank you, Rebecca. Hi, folks. My name is Ben Wilson. I'm the regional organizer in the Driftless region for Citizen Action Wisconsin. For those who don't know, Citizen Action Wisconsin, we are a statewide community with local chapters dedicated to healthcare for all, protecting the environment, social justice, and elections. We're gathered here tonight because our rural issue team has been very active in the fight for clean water. And we want to make sure that we highlight the need for clean water and action steps that you can take right now to protect Wisconsin's water. Thank you again for joining us for In the Wash, how we can work together to create a clean future for Wisconsin waters. Now, not only is this a one-time event, this will be uploaded to YouTube as a way for you to host your own watch parties. Get your community together. Talk to your book club, talk to your church group, show them this video and have active discussions around it. This is a resource for you to share and use to help protect your water. Now, before we get started, I'd like to just read our mission statement for today. Whether we drink it from a bubbler or a water fountain, all Wisconsinites need and deserve clean, fresh water. From Lake Superior to the Kickapoo River, water fuels our bodies, grows our crops, builds our economies, and allows us to enjoy the great Wisconsin outdoors. Unfortunately, Wisconsin water is under attack from professional polluters and the politicians they finance. If we all work together through actions and elections, we can make sure that the water in our cups and in our trout fishing streams is clean and healthy. Today, we are giving our communities the help they need to fight for safe water. The water in Wisconsin can be safe, and it can be saved, but only if we work together. Rita Simon. Rita is a water defender. She's helping to stop fossil fuels from polluting our planet and to stop taking away our sacred lands. Rita, are you on the line?
I am. Hopefully I'll pop up here.
There you go.
There I am.
There you are. Hi, Rita. I'm going to hand it off.
Okay.
I'm going to hand it off to Rita, and she's going to talk to us about water defending efforts in northern Wisconsin and Minnesota. Take it away, Rita.
All right, thank you, Ben. Nice to be here tonight. Yeah, my name is Rita Simon. I'm a retired family practice physician from Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin. I've been a member of Citizen Action Wisconsin Northwest Co-op since the 2016 election. I also have done some environmental advocacy with Wisconsin conservation voters. And more recently, this last year, I have been involved as a water protector activist in northern Minnesota at the invitation of the Indigenous tribes in the three reservations in that area where the Enbridge Line 3 has gone through, and they were trying to fight that for a number of years, and it really heated up last summer. So I had the distinct privilege to be one of the people in the huge caravan from Wisconsin that went up there and spent 4 days on their property, camping out and listening to the tribes up there speak about the issues, and then doing some nonviolent direct action on Monday, the following Monday. And then also involved in some groups coming through Eau Claire on their way up there through the summer, and also at the big rally at the Minnesota State Capitol in August. So those are kind of where I've been with this water protection kind of activism. And so I want to define water protectors. Water protectors, actually that term came from the activism during the Dakota Access Pipeline protests at Standing Rock Indian Reservation. And the water protectors are seen as activists, organizers, and cultural warriors and workers who are focused on the defense of the world's water and the water systems. And the main difference is that water protectors is coming from the indigenous people, from our friends who are not just concerned about only having access to clean drinking water, but this water protector idea is rooted in the indigenous culture perspective that sees water and the land as sacred, as necessary for life, as a relative, and it must be treated with respect. And historically, the water protectors have been led by or composed primarily of women and groups of women. And we saw this definitely in northern Minnesota. The indigenous women are really the water protectors, and the men really are involved as well. And that's because women are seen as the providers of life, just like water is. And so that's where that term came from. So how are Wisconsin waters under attack? And why do we need water protectors? So I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in northern Wisconsin with the Enbridge Line 5 pipeline. Enbridge Line 5 is a 645-mile pipeline that was built in 1953. It starts in Superior, Wisconsin, cuts across the northern part of Wisconsin. It goes underneath the Strait of Mackinac and across Michigan to Sarnia, Ontario. So it's a very long pipeline. This pipeline, being as old as it is, has significantly deteriorated in the last several decades. And that poses great catastrophic risks to the neighboring farmlands, the pristine natural areas, the large wetlands, and valuable freshwater sources, which include 280 rivers and streams that flow directly into the Great Lakes. And I'm talking about just the Wisconsin portion. You can read a lot about what the Straits of Mackinac portion, which is also crucial, but I'm going to talk about just the northern Wisconsin portion. Also, this pipeline cuts across tribal lands, the Bad River Reservation, which is in northern Wisconsin along Lake Superior. And when it was built in 1953, it was just built. The reservation really did not have any say in what was happening with it, and so it was just put through. Apparently, later years they did agree for an easement to the pipeline, but it was kind of after the fact. The Bad River Reservation sits within the Bad River watershed, and that's a critical Lake Superior tributary. The Bad River watershed that spans over 1,000 miles of interconnected rivers and sensitive wetlands. And the Bad River Fish Hatchery is the largest producer of walleye fingerlings in Lake Superior. So those areas of wetlands and waterways are extremely important and crucial. Now, because of the age of the pipeline and the locations of the pipelines, the pipeline of Line 5, the risks of catastrophic spills have surged in recent decades due to the soil erosion because we have been having increasing storms and increasing severe storms along Lake Superior, and also massive flooding events out of the ordinary. And the pipeline, when it was first constructed, actually back in 1963, so 10 years later, was 320 feet from the Bad River bank. But now it's only 28 feet from the river bank because of erosion. And since 2015, that bank has been eroding by 13 feet a year. So that puts that pipeline along the Bad River a very precarious position for damage, with further major storms and flooding problems flooding that has been occurring over these last years. And the other thing we know, if you look into Enbridge, is that their pipelines leak. They've had leaks all over the place. And in the last 50 years, this pipeline, Line 5, has had 29 leaks, up to 1.1 million gallons of toxic substances that have gone into the environment in 50 years' time. So we know no matter what the safety measures are, there are leaks all the time. And so this is very catastrophic for our waterways and everything that's connected to them. Since 2013, the Bad River Tribal Council has been trying to get information from Enbridge to evaluate the pipeline's risks to their treaty resources, the safety of the line, and the environment that it goes through. And following that 500-year flood in the watershed in 2016, I think we all remember those terrible floods that occurred in northern Wisconsin along those watersheds into Lake Superior. They finally, because they just did not have any, Enbridge was just not being cooperative whatsoever, they basically, the council decided to deny Enbridge the easements and requiring them to remove the 12 miles of the line going through the reservation. Of course, nothing happened, and the fossil fuel products are still going through the pipeline, and nothing has been removed or stopped. And this is despite, they finally have had to go to legal means to try to get some headway in this whole process. Well, now because of that, Enbridge has proposed rerouting a section of the pipeline so that it doesn't go through the Bad River Reservation. They're going to reroute 41 miles of the pipeline around the reservation, but the thing that is still problematic is it still is within that Bad River watershed. And the location of the reroute, it's 41 miles, it kind of cuts down and then back up again. Because of that location, it is going to cross just upstream from Copper Falls State Park in the falls and Brownstone Falls. And any spill in those areas upstream of those waterfalls would launch that toxic material quickly downstream faster than anybody would be able to organize a response to it. And it would be devastating to those rivers that flow into Lake Superior. It also, that pipeline in that reroute, endangers the Kakagan sloughs. And they are the only extensive coastal wild rice bed in the Great Lakes region, which are crucial to maintaining the genetic diversity of wild rice in Lake Superior. And of course, wild rice is sacred and very, very important to our native people. They have been using wild rice, subsisting on wild rice, selling wild rice for thousands of years, and bartering with it. And so it's extremely important that those wild rice fields or beds are not damaged by oil spills or the damage caused by building the pipelines, because that's the other piece of it. The economic consequences of any kind of a major spill along that route would be astronomical. And they would be astronomical for our Indigenous people who rely on those natural resources for their health and livelihood. And it would be astronomical consequence economically for Wisconsin, and especially northern Wisconsin, where we have all the beautiful lakes and rivers, and we have always prided ourselves on the many pristine waterways which draw people from all over the country and indeed the world to northern Wisconsin and the Great Lakes every year. So from an economic standpoint, an environmental standpoint, an honoring the treaty standpoint, there are just many reasons to be trying to stop this reroute of the Enbridge Line 5. Now, the Wisconsin DNR, of course, had to do an environmental impact statement on this Enbridge reroute, and that actually came out in December of 2021. But this environmental impact statement did not address how the new route would impact the tribal rights or how it would impact any of the environmental impacts on the watersheds. And I don't know how many of you know, but a couple weeks ago, the DNR did hold a public comment and listening session virtually. It went till 2 in the morning. They had several hundred people who spoke at that listening session and many, many more who were on listening to it. And such a great number that were participated that the listening comment, the written comments to the DNR were going to be closed on March 4th. But they actually just the other day extended this till March 18th because they realized that people have a lot of concerns. And so they have given us here in Wisconsin the opportunity to have a longer period of time to comment to them about what we think about this. There's a lot more I could say about this, but when we are done with this webinar, Ben will be sending out information to all of you, and I have a sheet that will go with it with all kinds of resources. So a couple things I would encourage all of you to do. If you're not familiar with this issue, educate yourself. There will be several websites on that resource list that have some excellent articles about this Line 5 and what that all means, the problems with it, and all the associated issues surrounding it, so that you can, they're very readable. There are lots of links that'll take you to other places so that you can delve into it as much as you like. So I would encourage you to at least look at a couple of the articles and get a little more information so that you can talk to other people about it as well. The other thing is that some of these websites, which will also be there, it will have links on them. The Clean Wisconsin website has a link to so that you can directly write comments to the DNR. So you can click on that, you can immediately go to it and give your comments about how you feel about this, what your concerns are about it, and it will send it automatically to Wisconsin DNR. Please do it by March 18th, that's the deadline. Also, the 350 Madison Climate Action Team will have 2 links for comments to the DNR and also to the Army Corps of Engineers that you can comment. The last thing I want to mention is that there's a huge project through Building Unity Wisconsin called March 4th to Earth Day. 22 communities in Wisconsin are involved with this right now. Every Friday, starting next Friday, March 4th, and every Friday through Earth Day on April 22nd, there will be actions in every one of these towns, and we are adding more all the time. And that link will be on there so that you can see what that's all about. And if I have an action in your community and you can attend any or all, please do so. And also in the Chippewa Valley and Eau Claire area, I am still looking for people who are interested in kind of being involved with that. So I would certainly welcome any input and also your support. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you find that this was informative, and I hope that you do get out there and make your voice known. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you so much. And as she mentioned, we will be having calls to action and resources going out on Monday. So keep an eye open for that. It's going to be listed. It's going to have tons of ways that you can get involved in the fight to protect Wisconsin water. Specifically right now, what you can do after this presentation, as I said, we'll be emailing you all the links with ways to get involved with Line 5. Write a letter to the editor against Line 5. Talk to your political candidates, both sides of the aisle this year, local, federal, and state, and find out where they stand on water quality issues.
Hi, I'm State Senator Brad Path. I want to thank Citizen Action for giving me the opportunity to say hello today and to speak with you about a very important topic. The topic is PFAS, forever chemicals. You see, for too many people and too many families in the town of Campbell, in French Island, in La Crosse County, they cannot drink water from their tap. They can't do this because of PFAS. Right now, in the state capitol, we're fighting special interests who are opposed to standards when it comes to PFAS, and are even opposed to additional testing. But their idea is to wait for the federal government in order to create the standards. In fact, they want to study the problem even more. Well, I think that's wrong. I think we know what we need to do. We need to work on a solution. I am proud to be a sponsor of a legislation called the CLEAR Act. This legislation has money available for additional testing and for helping communities like the town of Campbell fix the problem. It's time to get this done. It's time to put the partisan politics aside and come together and do what's right. Let's remove these forever chemicals from our water supply. Let's help our residents, those in our communities, test to make sure that their water is safe to drink. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Senator Paff. All right, we're going to take a quick break for another interactive episode. I'm sorry, that was my fault. I screwed up in the last one. This should be ready. So go ahead and grab your smartphones. I'm also going to put the link in the chat. And the question is going to be, do you drink from a bubbler or a water fountain? And don't click send until we're ready. And 1, 2, 3. Do you drink from a water fountain or a bubbler? Go ahead and pop in your answers there. We definitely have more fountain people than we do bubbler people. Oh, bubbler took a leap. All right, and Tim says it's a bubbler. All right, the only reason I asked this is just because we all know that local culture differs in Wisconsin based on your area. Some people drink from a bubbler, some people drink from a fountain. Some people drink pop, some drink sodas. Some stop at stoplights and some stop at stop and go lights. But one thing that brings us all together is the need for clean, fresh water in our taps and in our streams.
Do you live in a place where it gets cold and snowy during the winter? Do they use a lot of salt on the roads and parking lots? Like a lot? Do you know that people used to salt the earth of their enemies to curse them for future generations? But here's the deal. 54 lakes and streams in Minnesota and 47 in Wisconsin are already polluted by too much salt. And if you live someplace that looks like this in the winter, chances are you have the same problem by you. And it's not just the lakes and streams. The salt is also making its way into the groundwater, which is the source of drinking water for many of us. The problem is that once the salt gets into our lakes and streams, we have no technology to remove it. So the only way to stop this problem from happening is to stop putting so much salt on the ground. I'm going to throw a couple of links in the comments for a training program for plow drivers and property managers, how to reduce salt use without impacting public safety. And in a lot of cities and businesses where they have taken this training, they've been able to reduce salt use and dramatically cut their costs as well.
All right, get out those phones again one more time. We're going to ask the question, and this is yes or no. Do you think that Wisconsin is doing enough to protect our water from factory farms? Go ahead and type in your answer, and we will hit submit in 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and pop your answer in. Do you think Wisconsin is doing enough to protect our waters from factory farms? Absolutely not. Nope. Tim says no. Big ag is bad. We need more small farms. I could not agree more, Tim. Anyone else want to pop into the comments? All right. Next up, we are going to hear from an expert on factory farming and what it can do to water quality. Sarah Barron. Sarah is one of my favorite organizers to work with in the world. She knows what she's talking about. She's with Crawford Stewardship Project, and they are working to protect our water and our people from the dangers of factory farming. Sarah, are you on the line?
I am.
All right, I'm gonna hand it off to Sarah. I'm gonna stop sharing here, and the meeting is yours.
Right. Thanks so much, Ben. And thank you everybody for being here tonight. I mean, this is such an important event, and I'm just so glad that you're all taking time out of your day to hear from everybody about all of these water issues. So thank you for being here. As Ben said, my name is Sarah Barron. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with Crawford Stewardship Project. And if you're not familiar with us, we work to protect Crawford County and neighboring regions from threats of polluting and extractive industries. And we work to promote sustainable land and water use, environmental justice, and local control of natural resources. So I'm here today to provide a very brief introduction to CAFOs. So if you don't know what a CAFO is, it stands for Concentrated Animal Feeding Operation. And depending on who you're talking to, it might also be called industrial farming or factory farming. And it's basically classified as farming operations that have at least 1,000 animal units. And I've got a graph on there of what exactly animal farming unit is, because it's a standardized number based on the amount of manure an animal produces. So there are specifications about how large the animal is and if it has young, so on and so forth. So what you see on your screen is just, 3 of a whole list of what that equates to. But it's just some good background knowledge to have, because the animal unit thing can be a bit confusing. So if you're thinking that CAFOs are just in the flat plains of Iowa, but there isn't a large presence in Wisconsin, you are incorrect. What you see now is a map of all of the permitted CAFOs throughout our state. And it's important to note that this map is the most recent map on the DNR's website, but it's from 2017, actually. So it's really outdated, and it doesn't include any of the permits being reviewed right now. So you can expect that if you were to look at this map right now, you'd see a lot more red dots on here. So CAFOs moving in, why does that really matter? Why should you care? So there are a ton of concerns related to this operation, their effect on air quality, environmental degradation, property values, effects on small farms and community division, and I could go on and on and on. But for today, I'm going to focus on their impact on water quality. So no matter where you live in our nation, CAFOs have a clear tie to lower water quality. And particularly in our area, which is in the driftless region, but also in other areas of Wisconsin, we live in an area of karst geology. And what that essentially means is that the rock beneath our feet has fractures and fissures. So sinkholes are common, and those breaks in that bedrock create a faster vector for pollutants to end up in our springs, our streams, and our aquifers. So if you're looking at the diagram on your left, that is a great depiction of if you see topsoil that's oversaturated with manure, which often happens with CAFOs, those pollutants can easily find a way into our water supply. The photo on the right is actually a cave that's near a proposed hog CAFO in Crawford County called Roth Feeder Pig 2. And we at CSP are really hoping that doesn't get permitted, and or at the very least have additional monitoring measures, but you can find out more about that by contacting us. The bottom line is that this geology acts in really unexpected ways. You never know when a sinkhole is going to open up, or that the water is safe if we're not all using sustainable land practices. So what does that really mean for you if the water is contaminated by manure? You can have exposure, we can get fish kills that can result in a loss of tourism. You could have blue baby syndrome, gastrointestinal disorders, exposure to antimicrobial resistant bacteria like E. coli and salmonella, or exposure to waterborne diseases like listeria. So that all sounds horrible, and it's all cited from EPA literature reviews. So the concerns are well documented, but we have to catch up in terms of regulation. But I'm here to tell you today that all hope is not lost, and there are things that you can do. So first, stay informed and learn what actions you can take by joining a local group like Crawford Stewardship Project, Citizen Action of Wisconsin, or River Alliance of Wisconsin. You can learn what you can specifically do at this time for any proposed or existing facilities. You can write a letter to the editor. Take what you've learned today or dive more into the research and inform your neighbors and elected officials about this issue. I know a lot of people shy away from doing this, but I promise we try to make it as easy as possible. And it's so important for you to inform your community and let them hear your voice on this topic. You can contact us at CSP if you want more reference information or even just contacts for those newspapers. You can attend local meetings. So get to know your local elected officials at a county, township, or city level and get to know their priorities, thank them for the work that they are doing, but also share your concerns about factory farming. So it's really important to build up that relationship so that if you do have to have difficult conversations in the future, that's easier to do. When the DNR releases a draft permit, make sure that your voice is heard at that listening session, either by attending or write to the DNR. If the DNR approves a permit, make sure to attend your local county meetings and make your voices heard there as well. If you're someone that likes to get outdoors or you want to get involved in citizen science, you can monitor a local stream. If you're interested in doing that, you can reach out to us again at CSP. We can provide you with a whole bunch more information as to how to do that. And if you're really feeling motivated on this issue, you can start your own local stewardship project. And we at CSP, again, would be really happy to help guide you through that process. So I'm going to leave you with a quote from Margaret Mead: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." So if you have any additional questions about CAFOs in your area, water quality monitoring, or just general karst geology, I welcome you to contact us at the email address on the screen, and we would be more than happy to connect with you.
You can attend DNR events and hearings about water quality, write a letter to the editor about factory farm runoff. And if you want to write a letter to the editor, but maybe you're scared or you don't know what to say, Sarah or myself will be glad to help you through that process. It's an important skill to learn, and we'd be happy to help you. You can attend county board meetings and DNR hearings to stay up to date on factory farms seeking approval in your area. Take collective action in the courts, local board meetings, and in the streets. Stay up to date with Citizen Action of Wisconsin for our calls to action. You can donate to Crawford Stewardship Project. You can get your water tested. And to learn more about the farming and monopolies, you can check out www.farmersunion.com/monopoly power. And what you can learn a little bit more about how toxic the big ag industry can be. All right, we're back to a polling question. Kinks should be fixed now. Go ahead and on the count of 3, you're going to put in what part of Wisconsin you live in. It could be a city, it could be a county, it could be an area. Go ahead, let me pull up the screen here. And 3, 2, 1, what part of Wisconsin do you live in? Go. Chippewa Valley, Rock County, the Driftless, the Driftless, the Driftless, Chippewa, Kickapoo, Chippewa, Milwaukee, Southwest. All right, so Again, we're all here together, all the way from the Dripless to Milwaukee, because we care about water quality and we want to do something. And we need you to engage your community and get them to take action as well. Again, that's why this presentation will be edited and available on YouTube for you to host your own watch parties. All right, we talked to Wisconsin lawmakers, water quality experts, and folks just like you. We wanted to know what water quality issues are facing our local communities. And these are the stories that we heard.
Concept. First, let me thank you for allowing me to be part of this event, even if it is through a video like this. I was asked to discuss the people situation in La Crosse. So first I'll give you a little background. Our regional airport is, like every other airport in the nation, regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration, or the FAA. The FAA for decades has required the use of firefighting foam using compounds known as PFAS. From the FAA's perspective, this makes a whole lot of sense because PFAS firefighting foam puts out fires really, really well. It turns out the same qualities that make PFAS such a good firefighting substance are the same qualities that make it such an insidious contaminant in our community, in our state, and throughout our nation. Now, without trying to dive into the chemical properties of these compounds, because I would get hopelessly lost if I tried, the chemicals get the nickname forever chemicals because they don't break down. So for decades, following the regulations for use, testing, and storage of these firefighting foams. Turns out those chemicals have apparently leached into the groundwater and impacted some shallow private wells in the neighboring town of Campbell, and also forced us to take 3 of our municipal water wells offline. Since early last year, the city of La Crosse has been working with the DNR on a site investigation based on what we understand about where the firefighting foam was used, where the chemicals are flowing in the groundwater. Interesting, through our first study and confirmed in a second study, is that the firefighting foam spots aren't the only areas where the chemicals are coming from. And we're still analyzing some data that is now online, by the way, on the DNR's website. But our initial findings showed that some PFAS chemicals leaching into the groundwater in the town of Campbell come from the Mississippi River itself. Now, whether this is a historic level of chemicals that come from surface water or chemicals that get caught in sediment, we can say with a great deal of certainty that these chemicals are flowing in the Mississippi River from somewhere, and probably a whole lot of somewheres upstream. Now, since we started our site investigation last year, a number of other communities have discovered various concentrations of PFAS, either in wells, groundwater, lakes, rivers. In some cases, these chemicals are related to airports or military bases like ours. In other cases, the chemicals are remnants from industrial sites, either working or long since closed. And in some cases, sources are simply not yet known, or maybe are levels that are now simply environmental collateral damage from the overuse and lack of oversight of all of these compounds. In all of the cases, manufacturers who were very well aware of the impacts of these chemicals many years ago have avoided assuming any responsibility for the mess they've created. And our experience, like so many other communities around the nation, has led to actions by federal and state agencies to more tightly regulate these chemicals and to provide some funding for remediation and restore water supplies. Now, again, in our situation, the town of Campbell is looking at hooking up residents to a municipal water supply. And the town has asked La Crosse to look at coming to an agreement for supplying that water, and we have started those discussions. Meanwhile, despite some congressional action explicitly directing the FAA to no longer mandate the use of these PFAS firefighting foams, that mandate remains in place. Those chemicals remain throughout our lives in lots of products, and those include stain-resistant furniture and nonstick pans, waterproof fabric, ski wax, microwave popcorn bags, takeout food packaging, all that stuff you put on your windshield to make the rain bead. And it's even been found in bottled water, which notably is not tested for PFAS, even though local governments like ours are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on bottled water for those people who, like those in the town of Campbell and Rhinelander and Eau Claire and Madison and Wausau, it's really a long list. They've all discovered that these forever chemicals are now in their drinking water supplies. Lots of information, by the way, on these chemicals on the Wisconsin DNR and federal EPA website. So once again, Thank you, Clean Wisconsin, for allowing me to be part of this, even if it is through this video. Thanks, and hope to talk to you soon.
Hello, my name is Ken Bates. I'm a commissioner for the Green Lake Sanitary District in beautiful Green Lake, Wisconsin. I'm glad to share with Citizen Action the issues that we face in Green Lake. It may be similar to those that you face. The water protection issues that we face in our sanitary district are twofold. The first one is how to deal with the DNR requirement for the reduction of phosphorus in our wastewater effluent. To meet the requirement of 0.1 parts per million, we have to either upgrade our wastewater treatment facility, which would cost about $4 million, or utilize our treated wastewater effluent and spread it on nearby farm fields. The irrigation water option really meets our needs best. It's a great way for us to dispose of the wastewater, and we're choosing that option because it's best for the environment, but it's still a challenge to look through all the details to make that happen. But the main thing is it will eliminate phosphorus from our effluent discharge coming into the Fox River. The second issue is protection of Big Green Lake, the state's deepest lake. We have worked with our partners to study the impacts of phosphorus on our lake water quality. To meet the DNR's minimum requirements for lake quality, we have to reduce phosphorus by at least 50%. And that's a challenge. 65% of our watershed is agricultural. To achieve those goals, we have to work with our partners, NRCS, the DNR, the Green Lake Association, and our county, because we can't do it alone. It's going to require raising taxes, it's going to require grants, and volunteer participation from our farmers. This work is critical to the health of Green Lake, and the Green Lake Sanitary District and our administrator, Lisa Reese, are committed to making this happen.
Hi, my name is Wyatt Mulling, and I'm here in my hometown of West Salem in La Crosse County. Now, Wisconsinites everywhere, from the Mississippi to Lake Michigan, rely on our public waterways, not only to use the water in our daily lives, but for recreational use. Now, here in West Salem, we have Lake Neshonoc, one of the largest man-made lakes in the state. Well, the issue here with Lake Neshonoc is that it has about 3 times as much fecal material in it than any other lake in the county. That is because runoff from nearby farms finds its way into the lake here after massive flooding that we have seen in recent years. And it's not just fecal material, it is also chemicals and pesticides that come from these farms, and they pollute our waterways. See, because our public waterways are in danger. And that's why we're asking you to reach out to your local, state, and federal representatives to ask what they are doing to protect our public waterways. Because I swam and I fished, and even now I still paddleboard in this lake. And it's getting dangerous for everyone. And we need to protect our public waterways, or someday we may not be able to use them again. Thank you.
Hi, we are joined with Duke. Duke, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, my name is Duke Welter. I have worked for over 30 years for clean water and healthy watersheds here in the upper Midwest. That work has at times involved dam removals, mining projects, watershed restoration projects, and advocacy for policies that help clean up and restore our waters. I spent 7 years as a member of the Wisconsin Natural Resources Board and 8 years as a national trustee of Trout Unlimited. I helped envision and develop TU's Driftless Area Restoration Effort, which is TU's largest regional initiative, and one that's intended to ramp up driftless area restoration of degraded streams and watersheds in the upper Mississippi Basin. For 20 years, I've worked across the driftless area on community-based watershed restoration projects. I live here in Viroqua with my wife, Crystal.
Now, what water quality issues do you believe that we face here in the driftless region of Wisconsin?
Both groundwater and surface water issues face us here in the driftless area. The egg industry's manure management system often causes contamination of groundwater and fish kills in surface waters. And the DNR's oversight has been inadequate to prevent polluters from continuing or expanding their operations. Nitrates and phosphorus in our groundwater can cause birth defects in babies, and bacteria can make your family sick. So it's important to address those issues, both in policy and practice. The state and counties can have a role in both, and families should have a right to clean water recognized by their policymakers. Surface waters, like our streams, also carry nutrients and pollutants, as well as tons and tons of sediment that's been washed off stream banks and from farm fields above. That's important to communities that draw their water supplies from ground or surface water and have to filter that water more to filter out the pollutants. It's costing your village more to clean up that water. Why not clean up the sources?
Now, as an angler yourself, an outdoor recreationalist, aren't these concerns just about your own recreation?
If this was only my own recreation, I would find other outlets to work for and to advocate for. Yes, I don't like seeing manure floating down an otherwise healthy stream and killing the fish and the insects, which happens all too often. But remember, the trout anglers bring in over $1 billion, that's with a B, dollars a year to the driftless area. And they won't do that if the waters are foul. In some areas, industries have free range of pollute waters, which happens on a regular basis in states like Oklahoma and North Carolina. Their chicken offal, entrails, and waste from the chicken processing industry is often dumped into streams and causes severe human health problems and ruins those ecosystems. It is just unwise to not permanently and adequately protect this precious resource.
Now, do you believe that it's time for either America as a nation or Wisconsin specifically to guarantee clean water as a constitutional right?
I'm familiar with different efforts across the country, such as the federal Safe Drinking Water Act and the work that the EPA does across the country and the impacts that it's had. But let's talk about Wisconsin. Wisconsin would benefit from this amendment. Our counties that allow a referendum are proper to gauge the interest of their citizens in this issue. And it will be an incentive to citizens to find out what the quality is of their waters and what the water that they drink has in it. So sometimes it seems that many of our legislators give lip service to clean water, but don't take concrete action to actually accomplish it. If enough of us express our voice with votes, we can bring pressure on those lawmakers to address the issue. And that's good for everyone.
Now, this is the last question. When it comes to those lawmakers, we're coming into a major election season, as everyone knows. What advice would you give to people who want to make sure that they are voting for clean water?
Organizations out there that are do scorecards that are available to citizens to take a look at how their legislators have voted. You can look at their legislative records and get a good idea of what their sincerity is when it comes to water issues. You can also take a look at their legislative record for the absence of work that's been intended to protect water, or for their work in the past to weaken statutes and rules that protect our water. Candidate forums are a place to ask questions about what legislators and candidates would do specific matters to protect water quality and to improve it across the state. With that kind of information, we can bring pressure on our lawmakers and our candidates to address these issues. That's good for the state, and it's good for our water families too.
All right. Well, thank you, Duke, so much for coming and speaking to our audience from across the state. Any final words?
It's been a pleasure. I hope other people like me agree that water is an issue we should all be concerned about. And its quality is, while we have plenty of water, keeping it in as high a quality as we can has to be a worthy goal for the state. So thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Parrott, Alderperson at Large for the City of Platteville, Wisconsin. The City of Platteville is committed to the health and safety of its citizens. To that end, we have worked towards assuring that all lead is removed from the water service. Before 2016, there were over 600 residential properties in the City of Platteville with lead water service lines. Since then, the city has applied for and been awarded grant money to help facilitate the removal and replacement of lead water service lines on private properties. To date, 476 properties have had lead water service lines replaced. The City of Platteville strives to meet the goal of removing all lead water service lines within the city.
Hello, I'm Sarah Granger. I'm the City Engineer and Director of Public Works for the City of Viroqua. So there are many challenges that we face in the water industry, providing people with clean drinking water. One of the big things that Viroqua has been working through over the last few years is the lead issue. We have had goosenecks and some lead pipe in the ground in the city of Viroqua, and we've been working through the last couple of years to remove all of them. But what we do have left is galvanized water services that used to be connected to lead goosenecks, and we're trying to find secure funding for that right now, because right now that's the burden of the homeowner. We also have an inventory that we are required to do per regulation, and we've been working on it for some time. However, the requirement of in-house private plumbing records is challenging. One, just getting that information, and two, what we would do with it if we did find there was an issue. Radium is another issue that Viroqua faces. So we had 2 wells in 15 years decommissioned from surface water impacts. One was nitrates and the other was TCE. So that resulted in us drilling deeper wells, and those wells had radium or higher radium levels. So we've managed to keep them within limits using biological treatment technologies. However, that is always a continual challenge. Funding is another area that is always an issue in water quality. We always want to make sure the water rates are reasonable for the water users, but at the same time, all of these providing high quality water and all of these issues that we face requires money. And so grants and principal forgiveness is the key to helping that out. There's a lot of loan money out there, but not as much straight up grant and principal forgiveness money. And again, you know, talking to the users in the system about their costs and relating it to things that they deal with every day. So how much does your bottle of water cost versus how much is your utility water costing you? And lastly, keeping staff that is trained and experienced. So obviously making sure we have good quality water requires people that are trained and skilled in this area. And we have certified operators. Maintaining a staff of certified operators and being able to keep them is a challenge.
Hi everyone, Representative Evan Goike, and this is my son Miguel. We're coming to you from our living room in Milwaukee on the north side. We are passionate about clean water in the city of Milwaukee and in a little bit of a different way than some of the communities in the wide open green spaces of the state of Wisconsin. Our water quality challenge is that many homes like ours are old and have lead plumbing or lead laterals. And so we have an old historic house and we've spent a lot of money and blood, sweat, and tears to replace our interior lead plumbing, but we still have a lead lateral from our house to the water main in the street is made out of lead. And the concern there why these lead laterals need to be replaced is even tiny little flecks of lead. If if they get into the water, can have a lifetime effect, especially on little babies and young children. Even tiny specks of lead can result in lead poisoning. It's an uncurable, unreversible damage that are done to young kids. And so we need to get the lead out. We need to replace lead laterals throughout the city of Milwaukee, throughout older urban, rural, suburban communities. Wherever there's a lead lateral, we need to be putting our focus, our time, our attention, and our resources to get clean water in our urban areas. Get the lead out for me and for Miguel. Thank you.
All right, so we just heard from elected leaders and everyday activists like you about water quality issues across the state. Here's some of the things that you can do right now to help protect water quality in your local area. Contact your local elected officials. Ask them what water quality issues they are facing in your community. Ask every candidate on both sides of the aisle running for office at the local, state, and federal level what their plan is to protect Wisconsin water. Volunteer to help Citizen Action of Wisconsin endorsed candidates win their elections. Because we know that when you stand with a Citizen Action of Wisconsin endorsed candidate, that candidate will stand with you on the issues that matter to you. They are there to represent us, and we plan to co-govern with them. Again, you can donate to groups like Crawford Stewardship Project or Wisconsin River Alliance, or you can become a member of Citizen Action of Wisconsin. We'd love to have you. All right, so next we're gonna have Johnson Bridgewater from River Alliance of Wisconsin stepping up to talk to us about guaranteeing clean water as a human right. Johnson, are you with us?
I am here, Ben. Can you all hear me?
Yes, yes, we can. And the screen is yours. Thank you so much.
All right, absolutely. Thank you so much, Ben, and thanks everybody for sharing your time with us this evening. It's quite an honor to get to spend this time with you in the evening during a work week, and especially all of you who have an interest in obviously things that mean a lot to all of us working with you tonight. I have a specific upcoming opportunity that I'll talk about at the local level, but it's also part of a statewide campaign called Clean Water Now. As Ben said, I'm Johnson. I'm the Water Advocates Organizer for River Alliance of Wisconsin. And if you're not familiar with us, we're coming up on our 30th anniversary of working to empower Wisconsinites all across the state to protect and restore water. We have a long history of engagement on issues like mining, dam removal, pollution issues, agricultural issues, and you're welcome to read more about us. You can look us up online. We have a fairly easy website to remember, and that's www.wisconsinrivers.org. A little bit about myself. So after many years away, I am unbelievably happy to be settled far north near Hurley, Wisconsin. I'm originally from Minnesota, spent most of my conservation and environmental career down south in Oklahoma due to some family connections. But over the last 6 years, I have been coming up to Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin, for longer and longer stays, and I fell in love with it, and that's an understatement. It speaks to me very deeply and spiritually, and it is obviously a monumentally powerful place. Just think about the Anishinaabe culture and their spiritual centers up here as well. It is just a wonderful place. Learning about Wisconsin's history in conservation and environment was pretty amazing, especially coming from a place that was fairly devoid in that area. The public trust doctrine, Aldo Leopold, foundation of Earth Day, and all the other great work of Gaylord Nelson, fighting back the menace of acid rain in a way that surpassed almost all other governments that I'm aware of in dealing with acid rain. So moved me immensely. So now that I am up here permanently, though, and have found my way back into water issues, I'm really sad to say that starting especially with Governor Walker, Wisconsin, with this rich, deep, storied history, has sadly been on a downhill slide when it comes to water issues. We're on a path to sadly potentially wipe out all of this amazing work in a very short span of time. But that's not what we're here to talk about, right? We want to talk about the fact that there are positives. We are in a moment that calls on us perhaps a little more than is comfortable, but it's a moment that we really need everybody to heed. And there's really good news. So the good news is we can and we do make a difference, each one of us. Smallest action we take matters and adds on to a bigger cumulative picture. Tonight, I'm going to talk about one specific campaign that is in your area in La Crosse, and it's called the Clean Water Now campaign. I want to share a couple things before I talk about it a little bit. So, I have a little visual here, and hopefully you can read it there. And Ben is going to be sending some materials out. But the website, it does have a campaign website, voteforcleanwater.com, very easy to remember as well. And the second thing I'm holding up here, we also have, it is a campaign toolkit specific to advisory referendums, and I'll talk about that in a moment, but I'm holding it up now to show you. If you go to our website, if you go to the Vote for Clean Water website, you can sign up and contact me, and this is something that we are happy to share with any and everybody. It is not specific to Clean Water Now, although it has material in there to help you focus on that. It is a basic toolkit to explain and guide you through the referendum process. If you're not familiar with advisory referendums, without getting into the weeds, I'd like everybody to understand a couple basics, which is, in essence, it is a constitutionally guaranteed opportunity for the public to work directly with their elected officials to put an advisory referendum on a local ballot, to allow the public a chance to vote, to vote on matters of critical interest and need to them. The results of these votes are by law required to be sent and read by the highest levels of our elected officials, so legislators, governor, and I'm happy to share that through great work by supervisors in La Crosse County and Eau Claire County, and I believe one of the supervisors is on the call tonight, through their great work, both Eau Claire County and La Crosse County will have the advisory referendum on clean water on the April 5th ballot. Specifically what that is, the question that will be on the ballot reads, should the state of Wisconsin establish a right to clean water to protect human health, the environment, and the diverse cultural and natural heritage of Wisconsin? Now, the Clean Water Now campaign, it seems fairly simple, but it's empowering, similar to the Fair Maps campaign, it's empowering Wisconsinites to raise the volume on critical water issues across the state. It's giving public opportunities to engage with elected leaders and to practice democracy. And that is another key that I'd like to emphasize. Democracy is absolutely a verb. It's meant to be practiced. And given what has happened over the last few years, and as a couple of the speakers mentioned, we feel this is absolutely a perfect way to empower people on water issues, to let them actually practice the democracy. So, brief overview on the campaign so far. We had our first 3 counties approve the referendum, and then it was voted on in Wood, Portage, and Marquette counties. All 3 of them had very strong bipartisan support for the referendum. The vote was on average 75% yes. And like I said, now we have, for April 5th of this year, we have La Crosse County and Eau Claire County. This is, however, a campaign that is stretching all the way to the November elections as well. And that's another thing that I would like to mention tonight is if you have an interest, if you are listening to this tonight, if you're outside of La Crosse or Eau Claire, we have many other counties that are already discussing the referendum for November elections. We'd love to hear from you and work with you on that. Haven't spoken this much. I'm going to have a sip of my juice here, pardon me. So what's the bigger reason here? We want to use the referendum campaign to show elected officials and stakeholders that clean water has overwhelming bipartisan support. It's a top issue among Wisconsin voters across the state, as it should be. And again, as I mentioned, similar to the Fair Maps campaign, our goal is to build a statewide power and a statewide network around this basic issue, even though it comes one piece at a time. It's like building a quilt. All of the squares are a little bit different, but when you put them all together with a single purpose, it becomes something even more special. So why are we doing this? Well, despite the 2019 Speaker's Task Force on Water Quality, the year of clean drinking water, and you saw Senator Paff mention the CLEAR Act, all of that effort in 2019 built up 13 very positive, achievable water quality improvements through legislation. None. So here we are 2-3 years later, still no action. Water quality is worsening. So many counties are working to add the referendum to the November ballot, as I mentioned. If you are interested, you can contact myself. I know Ben is going to be sending out an action list. And you can actually go to the Vote for Clean Water website, the campaign Clean Water Now campaign site, and sign up for updates as well. And I think that's it in closing. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, Johnson. All right, we are going to move on here. Our calls to action for this portion of the presentation is to go vote. If you're in La Crosse County or Eau Claire County, go vote for clean water. If you're not in one of those counties, contact me or Johnson, and let's start working on it. Let's get it together. Let's make sure that your county will vote for clean water as a human right. Now, we're going to go over the calls to action one more time. So, after this presentation, we will be emailing you all links with ways to get involved with the fight to protect Wisconsin water. We're going to review a couple of them real quick here. You can always write a letter to the editor about water quality issues in your community. And once again, I'd be happy to help you write that letter to the editor. It's an important skill set and you should learn, and it can be a great tool to influence your legislators. Ask every candidate on both sides of the aisle running for office at the local, state, or federal level what their plan to protect Wisconsin water is. Talk to local, and state officials. Ask them what they are doing to keep Wisconsin water clean. You can volunteer to help Citizen Action Wisconsin endorsed candidates win their elections so that we have champions in Madison, in the county board, in the city hall, and in DC who we know we can trust to uphold our values. You can donate to groups like Crawford Stewardship Project or River Alliance. You can talk to your local elected officials about supporting a clean water referendum. And you can become a member of Citizen Action in Wisconsin. And tonight's presentation, the biggest thing that we are going to ask you to do is share tonight's presentation. It will be uploaded as a YouTube and available as a .mov download on request. And I will be breaking it up into 3 segments, which each end on a discussion topic. So you can have your own series of watch parties to discuss water quality issues. And a Citizen Action of Wisconsin organizer can even come and answer questions and talk about more about our organization. You can watch it with your book club, watch it with your church group, watch it with your friends and family. The more people know, the more power we have. We can create a Wisconsin where everyone has clean water in their taps and rivers, but only if we're going to work together. And once again, I encourage everyone to become a member of Citizen Action Wisconsin. Our members generally donate $5 to $50 a month, and 100% of that membership goes towards building a community, working together to create a better tomorrow. Together, we can make it tomorrow with universal health care, a habitable planet for future generations, and a government that lifts us all up. All right, we've got one more polling question. So get out your phones again. This one's going to be a little bit different. It's a multiple choice answer. You can pick as many as you like, but we've got a list coming up on the screen right now of different ways you will commit to protect Wisconsin water right now. Go ahead and start making your selections there, and we'll throw them on the screen here. Vote and research candidates. Volunteer with a Citizen Action of Wisconsin endorsed candidate. Thank you. Talk to your local elected officials about water quality issues facing your community. Attend local government meetings and stay up to date on local water concerns. Awesome. Host a watch party of tonight's event. Anyone that selected host a watch party, please email me. My email is ben.wilson@citizenactionwi.org, and I'm going to throw that in the chat real quick. If you want to host a watch party, let's get in contact now. We can get it planned right away. All right. So thank you for everyone who made commitments here. Oh, thank you for talking to your local elected officials about salt safe trainings. All right, we've got somebody committed to every action. That's amazing. Thank you so much.
Before I sign off today, I want to share with you 2 quotes from Indigenous water protectors. The first is from Alexander Howland, who is from the Jicarilla Apache Reservation in New Mexico. We are made up of water. We are born in water. We come from water. Water is an essence of our being. A lot of people don't see it, but we are connected to that water. We are water. That's why a lot of us are here. That's what water means to us. It means life. It means unity. It means one people. It means all of these things because we're all connected because of water. The second quote is from Winona LaDuke, Ojibwe activist from the White Earth Reservation in Minnesota. Someone needs to explain to me why wanting clean drinking water makes you an activist, and why proposing to destroy water with chemical warfare doesn't make a corporation a terrorist. Thank you for your time.
All right. That is it, folks. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to move on to a question and answer period. I'm going to go ahead and stop recording.